The world of sport often appears to be awash with doping scandals, but while some sports have been marred by recurring scandals, football has largely avoided the pitfalls of performance-enhancing drugs. With that being said, football certainly hasn't been entirely clean, and a number of all-time greats have had run-ins with WADA and FIFA about failed drugs tests in the past. Most famously, in the case of Diego Maradona, but also the likes of Frank de Boer, Edgar Davids, and Jaap Stam. Meanwhile, Rio Ferdinand was once banned from the sport for 8 months for not failing a drugs test, but for skipping one altogether. Today's video, being a Where Are They Now one, won't feature the likes of Maradona or Davids, but will instead focus on those who have returned from bans and are still playing the game. There are, of course, far more than 7 active footballers who have failed drugs tests across the globe, but I've picked out 7 that are fairly high profile and that I hope will be of interest. Of course, in the 1 in a million chance that this video does well, I could make a part 2 for all of you wonderful people. Here are 7 footballers who failed drugs tests. Where are they now? Arian Adeyemi, Dinamo Zagreb. A player who featured in my video looking at one player each Premier League team should sign not so long ago, Arian Adeyemi, is a talented defensive midfielder. Born in the former state of Yugoslavia, less than a month before Croatia officially declared independence, Adeyemi was a star man in Croatia's youth ranks, and he was snapped up by Dinamo Zagreb at the age of 19. A dogged and disciplined midfield ball winner, Adeyemi is a natural leader with a fantastic engine. In 2013, he made his senior debut for Croatia, but after being overlooked for the nation's 2014 World Cup squad, he switched his international allegiance to North Macedonia. In October 2015, at a time when Adeyemi was playing some of the best football of his career, the midfielder failed a doping test following a win against Arsenal in the Champions League. UEFA slapped Adeyemi with a 4-year suspension from all football, stripping him of some of the best years of his career, aged 24 at the time. In March 2017, UEFA reduced the suspension to 2 years, meaning Adeyemi could return to football in October 2017. Adeyemi and Dinamo claimed that the player knew nothing of the doping and that the prohibited substance had infected his usual supplement. UEFA clearly weren't convinced, but Adeyemi has been back in action for the last 2.5 years, and he hasn't looked like a man who went 2 years without kicking a ball in anger. Mamadou Sakho, Crystal Palace. A case that will be familiar with a lot of you already, I'm sure. A failed April 2016 doping test proved seriously damaging to Mamadou Sakho's career. Coming at the end of the 2015-16 season, Sakho had already registered 32 appearances for the Reds that season, the second most of any Liverpool centre-back. Whether Sakho would have continued to be a regular fixture for Jurgen Klopp without the failed drugs test is up for debate, but it certainly didn't help his case. Sakho's random test came following a game between Liverpool and Manchester United in the Europa League, and UEFA soon announced that Sakho was under official investigation. Liverpool and Sakho both agreed that he wouldn't play until UEFA had come to a conclusion on his case, and ultimately their conclusion was to ban Sakho for 30 days, having tested positive for the use of fat burners. It was later found that the fat burners Sakho had used weren't actually a banned substance at all, and the case was thrown out by FIFA, but Sakho never played for Liverpool again. He joined Crystal Palace on loan before making a big money move to South London, where he has once again found himself out of favour this season. Farhad Al-Muwallad, Al Ittihad. I am aware that Farhad Al-Muwallad is hardly a household name here in Europe, but he is a real star of the Middle Eastern game. Although he is aged only 23, Al-Muwallad has been a big name in Saudi Arabia for close to a decade, since he starred for the nation at the 2011 Under-20 World Cup, aged only 15. His senior Saudi Arabia debut came just a year later, aged 16, and at the age of 23, the sharp-eyed forward has already scored 13 goals from 56 caps for Saudi Arabia. Capable of playing on the left or on the right, Al-Muwallad is one of the fastest footballers on earth, and those stats and his age mean he has an outside chance of becoming the most capped male footballer of all time by the time he hangs up his boots. Al-Muwallad's failed drugs test came in May 2019, following a game between Al Ittihad and Al Nazir. The wide man tested positive for the banned substance phenethylamine, which is considered a performance-enhancing drug. Al Ittihad alleged that Al-Muwallad's massage therapist had given him the banned substance to alleviate muscle pain, and in the end, the Saudi superstar was handed a 12-month ban. Jake Livermore, West Brom. I can't quite believe that it has been more than 5 years since Jake Livermore failed a drugs test, but apparently it has, and that has now ruined my day, as it's reminded me of how rapidly we are all hurtling towards death. I think that's what a lot of people like about this channel, the light-hearted analysis that I add to all of my videos. Jake Livermore was playing for the club I support, Hull City, when he tested positive for cocaine, immediately receiving a suspension from both the FA and the club up until the end of that season, pending further review. Testing positive for cocaine can carry up to a 2-year ban by the FA, but 5 months on from their initial test, the FA decided that the provisional ban wouldn't be extended and that Livermore was free to return to action. Their leniency came on account of Livermore's extenuating circumstances, with the England international grieving the loss of his newborn child at the time of the violation. Livermore described relief at actually failing the drugs test and being suspended, since it gave him some time to grieve outside of the sport, and his performances on the pitch prior to the suspension had been clearly weighed down by off-field struggles. He impressed upon his return, and he has been with West Brom since January 2017. Fred, Manchester United. For such a high-profile player, in the sense that he's a full international who now plays for Manchester United, I don't think Fred's failed drugs test is particularly common knowledge. Perhaps that's because Fred was playing for Shakhtar Donetsk at the time, and it would be fair to say that Ukrainian football doesn't get a great deal of mainstream coverage here in the UK. It was whilst Fred was on international duty with Brazil at the 2015 Copa America that he failed the drugs test, in a case that would rumble on for some time. Fred tested positive for hydrochlorothiazide, a medication that featured on WADA's list of banned substances not for its own performance-enhancing properties, but due to its ability to mask other performance-enhancing drugs when an athlete undergoes testing. Fred claimed he was innocent, and UEFA cleared him to play for Shakhtar whilst the investigation went on. In December 2015, Fred was handed a 1-year ban by CONMEBOL, which was extended to a worldwide ban by FIFA a few months later. WADA considered the ban to be lenient, and it was later extended until July 2017, but Fred returned for Shakhtar in style, and after just a season back in action, he made a lucrative move to Manchester United. Josh Williams, Columbus Crew. Veteran MLS defender Josh Williams tested positive for the use of an anabolic steroid called metadinone almost a decade ago, a drug which has almost entirely fallen out of existence now. Once very popular among bodybuilders, including Arnold Schwarzenegger, Williams tested positive for the BED, having purchased it over the counter in a supplement whilst playing for Columbus Crew in only his second season in the MLS. The 32-year-old was an exceptional college athlete who excelled in soccer, basketball and baseball at high school level. He chose to pursue football or soccer, and his big break came in 2010 when Williams signed for the Crew. His suspension was a fairly lenient one, banned for just 10 games, and fined 10% of his salary, and a lengthier ban might have ended the American's career. He came back with the Crew, becoming a regular fixture in 2012, and later enjoying stints with New York City FC and Chicago Fire. The Ohio native returned to his home state and his boyhood club in 2017, where he has played 130 MLS games in total. Roman Eremenko, FC Rostov. One of the most high-profile drug bans and most draconian punishments in the history of football went to Finnish international Roman Eremenko. In October 2016, whilst playing for CSKA Moscow, Eremenko was handed an initial 30-day suspension by UEFA. About 6 weeks later, UEFA announced that they would be banning Eremenko from all European football for 2 years after the player tested positive for cocaine. Within a few weeks, FIFA had replicated the ban, preventing Eremenko from competing in any football anywhere in the world for a whole 2 years. The midfielder's appeal was rejected by UEFA, meaning he didn't return to action until October 2018, having lost 2 of his peak years to the ban. Eremenko's return came with CSKA's rival Spartak Moscow, but Eremenko has been with FC Rostov since January 2019. The 33-year-old, whose father and 2 brothers were also professional footballers, was born in Russia but moved to Finland due to his father's footballing commitments at the age of 3. Eremenko chose to represent Finland at international level, with whom he has won more than 70 caps, and prior to his ban, the experienced playmaker turned out for the likes of Udinese, Dynamo Kiev and Rubin Kazan. So that's it for today's video. Thank you all for watching. Obviously give us a like if you enjoyed the video, and feel free to subscribe to HITC7s.
This is a Chucky Beat production.